Well, hello everyone, it's Paul from TFL, and I got the phone call to go out and do a track event, and of course to that I always say yes, so it's always good to see you guys again. And the car, of course, behind me is one that we've all been waiting to test. It's the brand new 2026 BMW M2 CS, and we're gonna get to drive it on the track, we're gonna get to autocross it, and also drive it on the street as well. And of course, a very anticipated car because for the first time, the CS in the M2 platform is getting all the horsepower, all the torque of its bigger brother, the M3 and the M4. So with that, we've got a car now that is a lighter package than those cars. And then as a CS, it's dropping another 100 pounds through some carbon fiber and other changes they made within the vehicle. Completely revamped the suspension system on the car, right down to the bump stops and smallest bushings. So all of these things usually add up to a great driver's package. So hopefully we're gonna find that out, and stay tuned because we're gonna put this car through all of its paces and figure out if this is worth the CS badge. All right, here we go. Michelin Proving Grounds in Lawrence, South Carolina, in the brand new 2026 BMW M2 Club Sport CS, and getting to drive around their handling circuit here, which is very wet. Not intentionally, they do have wet tracks here. This is just one of their normal dry tracks, but it's just raining today, very gloomy and cold. So for tires, we're on 4S Michelins and not on the Cup 2s, which you might expect to be on in this car. So definitely slipping and sliding and getting to really feel the nuances of the handling characteristics of this M2. And it's incredibly well balanced. It's got 52% of its weight on its nose, so it's not the 50-50 that you tend to think of with BMW all the time. Very few of their cars actually are, by the way, but they're close to that, and 52-48 is what this car is at, and it does a pretty good job as far as, being a balanced car at all times, being very responsive to the brake pedal. The car will understeer, it will oversteer at any given point, depending on what you do with it, and remains very, very neutral, so it makes it quite fun to drive in these situations. The other thing that's interesting about this track that has me like a hawk looking at it while I'm driving is there are these painted lane lines here that are all very slippery in the wet. So I'm trying to straddle those as much as I can with the car. So it's a pretty busy driving experience right now, going around here quickly and trying to keep this car as well balanced as I can and off of those paint lines. And so under the hood, we've got the S58 inline 6-cylinder engine, turbocharged, of course. This engine has become a bit of a legend in its own right because of all of the iterations. And now under the hood here of the M2 CS, we have 523 horsepower out of that 3-liter and 479 foot-pounds of torque. All that's mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission, the ZF, that does amazing blips on downshifts, all the good stuff, limited slip differential in the back, and basically a cooling system that can handle extended track usage. So now the M2 has 523 horsepower in Club Sport configuration. 523 horsepower is exactly what you're getting in an M3 or an M4. And of course, we're in a lighter rear-wheel drive car. Because it's rear-wheel drive, it's a tick slower to 60 than the M3 and M4. That you'd expect. But of course, with the lighter weight and the same horsepower, when we're talking about lapping around a track, it's going to be quicker, unless the track is so tight that the all-wheel drive still provides an advantage, which it may on a really tight course, or in these conditions, in the rain, obviously, an all-wheel drive car would be quicker. The steering on the car feels very light, but it's also quite direct. That's kind of, I always joke that directness is the new feel, because steering systems don't have the feel that they used to, and because of that, you're sort of driving a little bit blinder than we used to. And they make up for it by having the steering be very quick and also extremely sort of direct and quick. So the ratio is quite fast. So those are, the things we deal with now with cars, and this is about as good as one of those systems gets. And the suspension on this car has been really modified over the regular M2, where the ride height is lower. They've changed the spring rates, basically. The anti-roll bars are different. The bump stops are different. Even the M2 and M3 don't have different bump stops, but this car actually does. All right, so you can tell I've been having fun today by the condition of these wheels and tires. These wheels are actually forged 19-inch in the front, 20-inch in the rear. That's part of the weight savings that we get out of the M2 CS versus the normal M2. We've got a 275 in the front and a 285 in the rear, but the rear forged wheels are 20-inch. So 19 front, 20 back, 275 in the front, 285 in the back. So it is a staggered setup, but the width isn't that different. And of course, that makes sense because it's 52% of the weight on the front, so you don't want to have a small front tire on this thing. When we're talking about the brakes, this does have the optional $8,500 carbon ceramic brakes, and it is money well spent. If you do a lot of track usage with the car, generally you can go through several sets of pads before you ever touch these rotors, where with the steel brakes, you'd be replacing them quite often. And I know that's a bit controversial. Some people like the steel brakes for the track. I'm a big fan of using the carbon ceramics. One of the other reasons, of course, is weight savings. You're saving a lot per corner on the car if you go with the carbon ceramics, which really helps. That 97 pounds that we're losing in total weight on this vehicle does not include the carbon ceramics, so it gets even lighter still when you click that option box, that expensive option box. Now on the back of the car, we've got this cool carbon fiber diffuser. We also have the quad satin finish tailpipes, so that kind of completes the rear of the car, except for when we go up this way. We've also got the ducktail spoiler. Now, one of the cool things about this spoiler is it's integrated into the trunk lid, and of course, it's carbon fiber. So we've got carbon fiber reinforced plastic on the trunk lid. We've got also a carbon fiber roof, stripped down interior, carbon fiber center console. All those things are sort of adding up to that 97 pounds weight savings over the normal M2. Carbon fiber diffuser is pretty handy because right now, going as quick as we are, 100 miles an hour plus in the wet around a fast sweeping corner, it's nice to have any downforce. Of course, it's got a unique front end to it with a splitter and all the good stuff there. And again, for two-wheel drive with 520 plus horsepower in wet conditions, it puts the power down really well. That's actually kind of a no-brainer with the car. So that's impressive. I'm definitely enjoying how well it is powered down. So you're kind of slithering around through the corner, then you go to the throttle and it just takes it right away. Shifts from the 8-speed automatic are right on the money. Again, everyone kind of lamenting the loss of the dual clutch transmissions with these cars, but this ZF 8-speed is just as good. It's just sharp. It also, of course, drives so much better in normal traffic than the dual clutches ever could. So that's a really nice thing about them, is they don't kind of have that penalty that we used to have with the dual clutches, where they were a little bit tough to drive and live with in normal driving. And you know, they were sharper on the track, though. That was the trade-off, and of course it was a trade-off we would happily make back in the day. But now we don't have to do that because the automatics have become so good that we can basically run these cars as sharply. The shifting up and down is immediate. The blips are perfect. All the things. I guess the elephant in the room in this car is I'm talking about how great the automatic is, because we can't get a manual for it anymore. And so that's maybe the one biggest obvious glaring disappointment about this car versus its predecessor, was that car could be had with a manual transmission, which we don't have here. So yeah, the automatic is great and the car drives really well, but we don't have a manual. We don't get to shift ourselves. So there's that level of connection that is lost. Am I not having fun as a result? Hell no, I'm having a great time out here right now. But would I rather have this car in a manual, or the ability to have it in a manual? Hell yeah, I would. When we get into the interior of the car, first of all, the standout feature for me are these M2 CS bucket seats. Not only are they carbon fiber, but they probably have the best form factor for holding you in place of any seat I've ever been in any car at any price point. I don't say that lightly. There's just the perfect amount of lumbar support, thigh support. There's a really nice angle to the seat back to stop you from submarining under the belts. and really good just support throughout your entire body, which of course provides you with a great connection to the car. We also have a tilt and telescoping Alcantara steering wheel, and I know BMW catches a lot of grief for their fat steering wheels. I have fairly big hands. I think these steering wheels are amazing. I love when they're big, fat, and chunky. It means I don't have to hold it as tight, and it also means I don't have to brace as much with my left leg because the seat's holding me in. The steering wheel has beautiful thumb cutouts in it. So the ergonomics are spot on perfect for driving, and especially spirited driving. Now, when we're looking at the interior, of course, we've also got these cool little carbon fiber logos. These are backlit, and if you open the door, it actually can change color to red. So that's actually backlit carbon fiber, which I've never seen before. So that's pretty neat. Certainly one of the things I'd say to me is a bit of a downside are the screens. Like, everyone's going to complain about the screens. I don't mind the amount of information that you get on the screens. It's just the style. It's just that sort of tacked on big, long, rectangular screen. I just kind of prefer something that's a little bit more integrated. Again, that's a taste thing. You may think that's the coolest thing in the world. Again, it doesn't bother me. It all functions really well, but maybe aesthetically kind of sticks out and doesn't look like it was built in with the car. What's the ride like? Well, it's actually typical BMW M car. It's almost sort of my favorite type of ride, where it's very firm, but it's never crashy. So you've always got a lot of body control at all times, a lot of platform control, but it also has the ability to absorb a bump if it needs to. So it has this firmness that initially makes you think that it wouldn't be good on an uneven road, or British B road, or a bumpy back road, but it is actually quite good at that stuff. And that's always been a bit of a hallmark of the M cars, where they strike a pretty good balance. It's definitely, of course, slightly on the firmer side. If you have someone that's a non-car enthusiast in the car, they're probably going to think this thing is firmer than the normal. Like, is this suspension okay? Does it even have shocks and springs? But of course, anyone that knows cars and knows driving realizes that it's a pretty darn good compromise that they always figure out with these vehicles. So again, with that chunky wheel, we've got the paddles for the 8-speed automatic right there. Again, perfect downshifts each time, very responsive, no delay with the transmission. You've got your M1, M2 buttons, which of course are fully programmable. These are great for being a quick shortcut. I wish other manufacturers would learn this, instead of having to go through the old school way and have to hit a setup button and then work your way through each of the settings individually. With a BMW M car, of course, you do all of that once, and then you come over and you store that on one button or the other. And so that stuff's really great, and it also lets you store things like the collision avoidance system and all of those things, as well as the stability control and traction control. So those M1 and M2 buttons and the amount of things that you can actually adjust with them make hopping in these cars, every day when you own it, a lot less frustrating. Again, this is what we expect from a BMW M car. They've delivered once again, and this car, again, with the power that it has, the weight reduction that happened, the track has expanded, the bigger wheels and tires, the carbon ceramic brakes, so on and so forth. We've got a very, very worthy car to carry the M2, not only the M2 name, but also the CS name as well. And it's kind of cool that I'm out driving this. A couple weeks ago, I was in an M2 CS at Road Atlanta giving hot laps at the IMSA event. So I'm ripping around Road Atlanta and now driving this one. And you can tell this car is sharper. You can tell it's lighter. All those things you can feel. So if you're looking for now the ultimate in performance, remember they used to have less horsepower, the M2, but now they have the same horsepower as their bigger brothers and sisters, the M3 and the M4. You can decide which one's the brother and the sister. Now we have the same power in that lighter package, that more compact package. So this is really kind of a cool car. Here's something that you're not supposed to do, and that's get into the back of an M2, but I'm going to do it. And it's not the worst thing ever. Again, you're probably taller than I am, but at 5'7", I've got a decent amount of headroom here above my head. I've got enough leg room for how I adjust the seat, so it actually is a usable, certainly for kids, I qualify. You could use this back seat, and it's pretty handy for that. We've got the fold down nice center console, and that's a pass-through for a ski pass-through that you've got there. So yeah, again, it's more usable than you think. And remember that an M2 is probably, or a 2 Series, is the size of an older 3 Series, like an E38 3 Series. So it does have usable room in it, and it is a pretty daily drivable, enjoyable car. Now on an autocross course, so we drove it on a racetrack, drive it on an autocross, kind of do all the things. And we've got, you know, as usual, all the systems off. Again, it's wet, so there's a lot of sliding going on right now with the car. But it initiates really well through a little slalom. But it has enough power that this thing's pretty snappy, again, with these conditions that we're dealing with right now. So quick steering, throttle response. I've got the chassis set on soft because it's wet. I've got the engine set on efficient, so it's not snapping the tires loose every 2 seconds. And those are all like the little tricks for going around a slippery surface. I was using that on the racetrack as well. And you're able to just put the power down more efficiently without getting wheel spin all the time from the car. But you definitely have to have quick hands here, because on an autocross, of course, it comes at you quite quickly, but also even with the suspension set on comfort, the car's pretty snappy with all the power that it has. All right, guys, it's the next day, and Murphy's Law being Murphy's Law, the sun is gloriously shining. Yesterday, we were out at the Michelin Proving Grounds with the new M2 CS, putting it through its paces, and we drove the heck out of these cars. And then looking at this car the day after, there's definitely a lot of sort of gravel and grit in the road surface at Michelin. And so the front ends of this car is just absolutely hammered with just nicks all over it. But thank you, BMW, for letting us drive the cars as hard as you did. It's worth talking a little bit about the styling, I think, of the M2 CS, because BMW's styling, I'm old, so I remember even what we called Bangle Butt when Chris Bangle first designed the rear of that 7 Series that was so controversial. And this was sort of BMW's styling departed a little bit from, I think, what we always expected from the brand. I think that's fair to say. And these days, we kind of put up with a lot of the looks of the cars because they're so darn good to drive. The bones of these cars are amazing, and the styling we sort of begrudgingly accept. I'd say the M2 CS, and of course this is all subjective and opinion, is one of the better looking because it's one of the more understated styling designs that these BMW M cars have, where we're talking about more of a traditional regular sized grille opening, not the gargantuan grille openings that you see on the M3 and M4. And it's very blocky and boxy. And that sort of harkens back into the 80s with the box flares and all of that kind of stuff in the 90s. So I think, again, overall, this one looks a little bit cooler and a little less sort of in your face with a massive grille. Now, one of the things that's great about BMWs is they put a lot of cooling on their cars, and they're designed to be able to run a 20-30 minute session without overheating everything. And that isn't just the engine and the radiator, but it's also the cooling systems for transmissions, for differentials, for basically the entire powertrain of the car. And so there are radiators all over this thing, and there's big, huge openings for those radiators. And not only are they stacked here behind, sort of, right in front of the wheels, as well as, of course, our normal radiator space here, but also there's a horizontal one that sits underneath, right behind the splitter here, that is fully exposed underneath the car. Now, while that may provide some great cooling, it's also very susceptible to damage. So that's one of those things where I sort of question the design intent of the cars like this. But again, you can't fault how it works. It does keep the car cool. You just got to be careful, especially if any of you are autocrossers, you can get the base of a cone that you hit that flips up underneath here, and it'll take out that lower radiator. I think someone in the aftermarket might be able to make some money by putting a guard system for this underneath horizontal radiator, and also to protect the fins on all of the radiators that are behind this front end. So a very, it's a typical puzzle to solve for a manufacturer, where you're trying to work in styling, you're trying to work in function and form, and then also going, hey, this car is going to spend its life with many owners just about every weekend of the spring, summer, and fall on a racetrack, and we need to account for that too. So in conclusion, what do we think of this 2026 BMW M2 CS? It's a bit of a weapon, I would say, when you're putting this much power in a car that has this much grip, and it's very compact, relatively short wheelbase, all of those things. It's something to drive. I mean, it's very, very quick in a straight line. It obviously, again, is a little slower than the M3, M4 from a dead stop because it's just rear-wheel drive. Really great handling balance from a great chassis. Really a neutral car. You can make this car understeer, you can make it oversteer, you can make it be perfectly right in the middle, and you can do it wherever you want, in whatever corner you want. Responds really well to the brakes. The carbon ceramics are fantastic. Again, as I mentioned, the engine is really a standout in how fast this thing actually goes. 188 miles an hour out of an M2, and that's electronically governed. So that's a pretty impressive number. And then how does it stack up? In lap times around the Nürburgring, this thing's 3.6 seconds slower than the M4 CSL. So it's actually right in the neighborhood, and it is the fastest compact car around the Nürburgring in the world. So some serious credentials, and the only thing holding it back are some slightly smaller tire sizes and a little bit less aero than you get on the CSL. So really good, solid car for whatever you want to do with it. So definitely earns the badge of a CS. Well done, BMW.